And now. Yeah, okay, that should do it. And then I'm coming in over the top. Yes, okay, we figured out what happened. The SteelSeries engine that runs the audio for stream and only stream crashed. So we fixed it, problem solved. It is certainly unfortunate that it's hard for me to tell you that, but I hope a thumbs up got the point across. Hello friends, hello team, thanks for your patience, I do appreciate it. We were trying the solution of, if you don't know when you're going live, just tell people you don't know what time you're going live. And so we did, and it was a highly variable amount. It was entirely, when do I feel like I've got my shit together enough to jump on and say hi to everyone. And hello, happy Wednesday night. I hope you're excited for Book of Hungry Names. I am excited for Book of Hungry Names. We're going to see if we can focus and get as much time out of it as I can manage before my voice starts falling apart and maybe everyone gets tired of the nasal. This guy still has a cold tone of voice that we are working on. It's the last thing to clear up. Yeah. But I also teased the fact that I finished Alan Wake 2 today. And I wanted to talk about Alan Wake 2 in slightly longer sense, given that I have mentioned it at least a little bit in the Discord server. And you are very welcome to join the Discord server by typing !class into chat and telling all the cool people you want to bring along, see the nudes and lewds that Comrade sends for all of our benefit, and I occasionally send it one or two good things as well, sometimes of me, sometimes of other people. As well as video game discussion, development of my tabletop role-playing game for Phenomenon 2024, of which we could nag Willis into also posting on the channel, but that seems a little mean, given I think she's got other things on her mind right now. One of them is, I'm nagging her to keep writing her game. Just a stinker. Fucking terrible, how could I, right? It's only my job. Not really a job. My position, my task, my responsibility. That's the spirit. See, I'm excited about the game. I am excited about the concept. I want to see it happen. So I am glad that we're getting some movement on it too. It's going to be very exciting. So Alan Wake 2 is 13 years old. In some sense. It's been roughly 12 and a half years old in my brain. Because I've been thinking about what Alan Wake 2 could be ever since I finished the first one, and I didn't finish it right away, but boy, it was pretty quick. Given a game about a wife guy writer who was a bit of a dick at one point because he was overwhelmed by emotions he didn't quite understand and wasn't entirely in touch with, and then made a mistake. Trying to redress that concern while also saving his loved one from the darkness using the power of art as some dark eldritch beast from beyond the stars, otherworldly, makes some sort of negative influence on the world, takes art, makes it real, uses that to cause problems. Like, how is that not a perfect Jimbles game? Well, it was. Alan Wake is one of my favorite games available, and it's not surprising that it held up pretty damn well when I replayed it sometime late last year, I believe. It's a remastered version, but so what? It's just a fantastic game. Even if you do take the idea that Alan is supposed to be just like a schlock writer, and he is. And he is a bit of a dick, absolutely. Like, well and truly broken pedestals, not a hero to look up to. It's still great. I loved the idea. I loved how the game itself seemed to lean into the aesthetic of really indulging in the horror of what it would be like if your writing became real. Whether you intentionally did that or not. Whether you're chasing that to try and turn your writing into something real, your artwork. I like how it wasn't just writing that turned real, but other art. There are examples of painters, sculptors, musicians having their art influenced by the dark presence. It wasn't the pretentiousness that sometimes falls in where one art discipline or one discipline is seen as more important than all the others, so the dark power doesn't only affects them because it's the best or whatever. No, this was an inclusive way to say that the darkness is there to fuck you over. And it was spooky, man! It was spooky, but also had some pretty funny moments that were worth giggling at. And sensitive art guy as well? Of course I loved it. So I've been dreaming about the sequel and what it would look like and what it could involve for a very long time, and when little hints appeared in other Remedy games like Control, very much Control, I was dreaming about what Alan Wake 2 would be. It went from a, God, I hope this eventually happens, maybe, to, it's definitely going to happen. They haven't announced it yet, but they've been hinting for ages. They love Alan Wake. So, yeah, it's finally announced. And then details came out, and it seemed to just go perfectly. It seemed like the developers really loved the idea. They went through enough iterations, and hey, comrade. They went through enough iterations, they thought about it, they worked on it a whole bunch. They talked about what would make a good game, good horror, psychological horror game, thriller in many occasions, about art, what matters, about sacrifice and heroism, and then they just did it. And it worked. It was really enjoyable. I loved it. It gets an 11 out of 10. I don't often break a rating scale, but fucking hell, man, Alan Wake 2 is perfect. The only bit I didn't like was it felt about as much fun as other games I've played for longer than I wanted. I just wasn't actively enjoying it for the whole process. It was the DLC, which is it's essentially Remedy clapping themselves on the back for being cool and releasing such a successful game. Good, they should. The bit I didn't like about it is primarily that it held up an idea and went, cool, huh? And then you finished it, and that's it. I wanted it to be longer, not in the I could do that more, but in the sense that Alan Wake 2 takes time to explore the ideas, and it loops back on you to be like, think about this theme, think about this theme, think about this theme. And not in a hammer and anvil way, but in a like, this is important. I want you to think about this to get why we're doing this. And when it lacks subtlety, and it definitely does lack subtlety in many ways, like the musical based on Alan Wake's entire life, but mostly Alan Wake 1, as a way to recap so you know what the game is about. Zero subtlety, really fun, and highly enjoyable. And also is still in some way still a little bit creepy. The whole way through. Fucking great, man. Absolutely great. Well, you're missing out, comrade. That's part of the joy here, is like, it isn't say think about themes so that you can pat yourself on the back. Think about themes because it's what the game is about. And it's how you enjoy it. It's what, the reason why you do that isn't so I feel better about myself or I can feel smart in chat rooms. It's like, the game, you know that the game is saying stuff. The text has cool stuff going on here. I just feel like I'm never going to get into it if I don't think about it more. And so Alan Wake 2 was rolling over in my brain when I wasn't playing it. And it wasn't just, I want to feel that fun bit again. I was like, why did they reuse the concept of a mind palace specifically for this person? Why is it named different for Alan when it performs a slightly different function? Like, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You can see tropes and recurrent themes that clearly the creators enjoy enough that they want to re-include it in some way. It's a big spoiler at the end of the game, so I'm not going to do it. The same way as, like, it's a big spoiler at the end of Control. But like, even though on the surface it seems like a similar thing, the individual aspects are so different and unique that I'm like, oh, I can tell that the writer really enjoys this idea. But they've thought about it enough, and it's been through iteration, review, and extra effort that they actually care about what I think too. They didn't reuse it whole cloth and just because they like it. I felt respected by Alan Wake 2. Which is a weird thing to say, right? Especially as it feels welcoming. It doesn't try to keep people out unless you beat its puzzles. No, man. It's trying to invite everyone in and then also respect you in the process as well. And that's a weird, amazing, beautiful, highly enjoyable feeling, and I'm glad I played it. I'm glad it came out. I'm glad that the next DLC is likely going to involve the Federal Bureau of Control and maybe even Jesse Faden. That's going to be fucking fun as hell. Fuck yeah. So anyway, I started Elden Ring in French. Why did I start Elden Ring in French after that? I don't know. It's been a stressful while. And I'm trying my best to hold up under the strain, and I feel like I'm doing okay, but I just keep discovering that things are more important to me than I expected, and I can't push them down any further, and that sucks. Because it just seems like the easy solution to not care. So I boot up Elden Ring, because there wasn't any work to do right that minute. I just sent off a large package of work. Very proud of it too, it's fantastic. And I think, you know, Elden Ring is not text heavy. It's not like playing... It's not like I'd be playing Book of Hungry Names in French. Not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell. We trip over the grammar currently. But Elden Ring is like... I'm not saying that the item descriptions and the dialogue and whatever is unimportant. It's, weirdly enough, it's so sparse compared to a lot of text being thrown at you all the time like another CRPG that every word is actually important and has a lot of information. So watch 400 videos by Vardy Video. There you go. Or videos on how important cloth is. Awesome. Cloth and the animation of it. But the game itself can still be played without understanding all that, especially the second time through. So I put it in French because it's slowing me down. I'm reading all the text again, if only to puzzle it out in my brain to figure out what it means, and then try and remember what it was when I last played it in 2018? A save? I can't tell now. I've opened it today anyway. A while ago, when it first came out. Thanks to my friend Chickadoom. But now, I'm playing it in French. That long? 2020 then? Whatever it was. See, Cleric's got me there. I also discovered that none of the voiceovers have been translated to French either. So I'm getting English dialogue and then French subtitles, and that's absolutely perfect. That's what I want. I want to be able to, like, not live translate, but, like, activate the part of my brain that's like 2022. Thank you, comrade. Really? Not that long at all. Yeah, 2 years. Okay. I want to have that, like, stagger the language happening to me at the same time. Now, that only happens with dialogue. All of the text is in French. And so I'm essentially working it out. But I don't think I'm truly understanding everything. Certainly not all the item descriptions. We haven't done it for longer than like 30 minutes, but it's good. It's good fun. It's going to be very fun. To the point where, like, I found what Vara said about being maidenless pretty funny, but I didn't have time to write it down appropriately. I didn't take a screenshot. We'll see. Just by mentioning it in a group chat, a friend just responded in French. I didn't even know they spoke French, and they were like, yeah, I took it for 4 years in university. What the fuck? What the fuck? Really? Incredible. So now I have a French partner. And, like, they're big into Elden Ring. They're fucking tops at it, so... I'm pretty excited to be like, what the hell is this supposed to mean? And, like, the answer could very well be, close the game, reopen it in English, you moron. Or they could give me what they assume would be the best translation. That's exciting. It is a shame Elden Ring is slightly too graphics dependent to, like, for me to stream it. And I can show you what it looks like. We'll see. Huh? Maybe. Maybe a bonus stream. In that magical time where I get additional free time. And I complain about that all the time. Sure. What am I actually going to do about it? Nothing. It's just a lot of effort. I don't feel like I'm able to jump on and stream for an interrupted hour. Maybe when I finish my Fenno game, and then finish a novel that I've promised to myself I will work on in earnest once I finish the Fenno game. I mean, I did sneakily, super sneakily manage to convince Erica, fellow streamer Erica and member of the Discord channel, that she could review my characters for the LARP and just add some comments to make them better, because she's written amazing games in the past, and I'd love a little assistance. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself for a second. While I do disgusting biological processes, and then let's read some game. Now again, I don't know how long I'll be up and going for now, but I wanted to make a best faith effort doing some extra time here in the Book of Hunger Games, because I like this book. I really do. And I don't think there are any other Twitch streams recorded or available on YouTube for this yet, and it's really good, so I want to do it. If I was really serious about it, I'd get an editor to like remove my preamble and fucking about and make a curated playlist. It's just a, hey, watch this. You take the bus back to your cabin. I returned to the stretch of urban blight where I spilled out after looking for the cairn. Maybe I can find something there. Between the once sacred forests of Broad Brook and the parking lot for Big Lots and Walmart is an astoundingly ugly zone of urban blight, a smear of brick and iron that refuses to let nature reclaim it. People still squat in the old brick buildings. Twice a day the bus rumbles up to a battered stop and picks up or disgorges the wild-looking locals. But this is a kind of urban blight that only proximity to the spirit world can cause. By any normal standard, it's hideous, but there's something about the brick alleys, the rusted metal, the heavy blanket of snow falling on sodium lights, a heavy blanket of snow on failing sodium lights. It strikes you as indescribably beautiful. This is once the home of Broadbrook's bone gnawers and a meeting point for itinerant silent striders. An urban werewolf could still make her home here and work to restore this place. The old buildings around Daphne Clear's office probably looked like this before her arrival, but you can feel how the Glasswalker is healed to the built-up cityscape, working to restore the humans and the spirits within. Right now, though, this place is a blight, a toxic wasteland, spiritually and literally. It needs healing, and you can't heal it without a bone gnawer or glasswalker. Ms. Clear has already claimed as much territory as her spiritual authority will allow, and you doubt you can entice Scarpa to join you down here. So you need to find a bone gnawer of your own before you can start turning this scrap heap around. Cool concept. I realized that I had not mentioned what we're listening to tonight. It is once again Ivan Dutch on his playlist of vampires. I encourage you to check it out because this guy is a good composer. And they're all absolutely royalty free. So we enjoy his effort. I link him on the VODs as well. I scout the deep woods around Broad Brook, edging around the areas where my memory is spotty. You pass into the deep woods and a cool winter breeze sends ribbons of blue-white snow fluttering across the bare rocks. This is a sacred place, hidden from the people of the map and once so rich with spirits that even you can still feel their lingering presence, but so much has faded and fallen into ruin since the Battle of Graves Farm. You pass menhirs and sacred trees, the tattered remains of banners, old stone walls tumbled down into heaps. You also note signs of spiritual corrosion as the powerful energies of this place shift out of balance without a guardian to maintain them. Dead animals that mark the lair of some minor foemal. You'd kill it, but it'd just come back. Befouled pools reveal the passing of Wyrm Spirits. You even find colts of Fenris runes scratched in a rock as the fallen werewolves try to claim this territory without healing it. All this must be restored, you know. You need someone wise in the ways of the spirit wilds, a child of Gaia, or maybe a heart warden like Clay in the days of his power. Until then, this forest is beautiful but powerless, and eventually its spiritual potency will turn rancid and this place will become a breeding ground for Banes. As you wake up one morning, step outside to take the air and try to see the spirit world, you enjoy a pleasant surprise. It's warm. Not beautiful spring day warm, but sunrise has banished the bitter cold of the last few months. Maybe it's time to talk to Daphne Clear about getting back to work. I've waited long enough. I can email Daphne Clear at GRC Media and tell her that Elton and I have work to do. You fire off an email that implies just enough frustration that you do not actively offend the powerful and far-seeing Glasswalker. The response is almost instantaneous. First, Ms. Clear forwards you and Elton 2 news articles. Air Force veteran killed by Rottweiler in Lancaster from BuffaloNews.com, and Holyoke police officer killed in semi-truck crash on I-91 from WWLP.com. The man you killed, the one with the lance back in New York, and the one Elton killed while investigating David Binnicky's workshop. The text arrives for you both a minute later. Crest folder, 180 IQ. That wasn't easy, and there were loose ends that hunters might detect. You 2 children understand that people hunt us, right? I'll be watching your performance in the months to come. Elton texts you without including Miss Clear. Bride's head reloaded. That's about as close as we'll get to permission. Where can I find Melody Palace? I ask Elton. You text Elton, you get a response as you eat breakfast. He's coming over. He arrives in less than half an hour, just as you're finished cleaning up, dressed in his black frock coat against the blustery spring weather. Recovering Melody won't be easy. No. English. Recovering Melody won't be easy, Elton says. You know about the 3 families, right? The Palaces, the Binnickys, and the Lunasics. While your initial experience with the 3 families was David Binnicky and his horse torture and mutation factory, your subsequent encounter with Lucinda at her studio was much more agreeable. Correct, Elton says. This strange alliance worked well for over a century, but until, well... it's not her fault. Melody, you ask? She was the first guru to emerge out of three families, Elton says. The result? Political chaos. And then her sister, Harmony, demonstrated her own supernatural talents, though she was technically only human. The Silver Fangs were always closer to the 3 families and the Shadow Lords. The when Melody joined them, it shifted the balance of power at the KN, helped the families gain more control over the Guru. It was a disaster, although it wasn't Melody's fault. Still, she blames herself. Wait, were the 3 families actually Catholic and Jewish? Didn't they notice that the spirit world is real and that other people's religions were more accurate? You're treading on dangerous ground, Morgan, Elton says. Religion? Worse. Old family histories, the Shadow Lord says. I'll keep it brief. They were all heretics by the conventional understanding of these religions. The Benicki's folk traditions were Santeria for white people. The Lubicics made a Rosicrucians look like the vicar next door. And the Palaces? They sought to combine Jewish mysticism with Guru cosmology. As you probably know, the line between monotheism, polytheism, and animism are confused. Native Guru often acknowledge the Manitou or Great Spirit. We haven't died yet. Oh yeah, what's it called? Often acknowledge the Manitou or Great Spirit, despite focusing on minor local powers in the Kabbalah, employed in esoteric Christianity and Judaism. It recognizes many great emanations or aspects of God. Even conventional Christianity recognizes all kinds of angels and sacred heroes. So the Palaces weren't exactly orthodox, but they produced many brilliant non-conventional scholars, including Melody's late sister Harmony, and Melody herself. But we know where Melody is, you ask. Elton nods. She fled when her family died, Theurge says. North of here, a little nowhere town called Ashfield. I tried to do research online, but there are almost no resources. That's bizarre, you say. There's something fishy going on up there, Elton says. This is what happens when Guru aren't there to placate and support the spirits. The spirits get aggressive and strange and everyone suffers. The smartest thing to do is just head up there, find out what's wrong with Melody, and deal with it face to face. You can go right now if you'd like. It's not as if meticulous planning has ever helped us in the past. Great, let's go. You sure you're ready? Dangerous. I have 0 experience. Let's do something. You sure you're ready? Serious danger may wait in the shadowed woods and forgotten homesteads of Ashfield. I'm ready. We're going north to rescue Melody. You open your closet and dig through your equipment. We'll travel north in Lupus form, Elton says. It's important to scout what used to be a territory as fast as his wolves. You've conducted short patrols in Lupus form, but Elton offers you invaluable pointers on how to manage two-form travel. Only a few years older than you, and he's already a hardened veteran, and he shows you how to manage baggies, extra clothes, zip ties, towels, and the other paraphernalia of shapeshifter life. The Theurge loves to give lectures, but you can't complain, because he knows his business. Once you both have your kits together, you both change. Elton's fur of his lupus form is an iridescent purple-black, like an oil slick on midnight seas. It's even more unnatural than your gunmetal grey fur. Is that common among Shadow Lords? Or a mark of the Stormcat's favour? It's a bother, Elton says. How Elton still has an accent in the primal tongue, you don't understand. You follow him north through fields and into the woods. It's a 4-hour run to Ashfield in lupus form. More of spring meltwater prevents you from crossing the larger streams. You haven't run this far since you hunted the bay back home. And you've never coordinated with another Garou, so you just stay behind Elton and try to pay attention. You have no problem keeping up, as the Theurge stops every few minutes to sniff around his old territory. You edge around the Veterans Hospital, not far from where you fought David Benicki, and feel the sense of loss among long-abandoned campsites and effaced Garou signs scratched in rock. Spirits once thrived here, even as the apocalypse spread across the world, but now you smell only cold mud and silent trees. 2 hours later, you break away from Elton as you circle a muddy hill dotted with spring flowers. A hot wind blows out of the deeper woods, stirring ripples on the surface of a swollen brook. The worlds are close here, and for a moment you hear Gaia's mournful sighs. A spirit world appears between two sickly birch trees. The Umbra is a vision of hell, rendered without art. Earth-moving machines work the muddy and lifeless fields, operated by brutal labourers with cracked skin and twisted horns. The air smokes, the muddy ground is covered in slim, human-like creatures, once beautiful, now broken and lifeless, their robes tattered. Black Tarn told you about glade children, the spirits of trees. Before the vision fades, you watch one of the earth movers plough a dozen of the muddy corpses into the ground beside the brook. This rivulet flows into the actual Broad Brook. Follow it, and you could reach the captured and defiled Broadbrook Cairn, or you could if you could understand why your previous scouting expeditions all ended with you missing everything important and standing next to the highway. Not sure how to begin. The vision fades, but the feeling of rot remains, clinging to your fur. You can almost feel the diseased hatred of whatever resides now in that place as it concentrates its hateful will upon you. Litany tells me to fight the worm wherever I find it. I'm not strong enough yet, but I let that thing know I'm here. You still don't know exactly what happened in the Battle of Graves Farm. You've heard only conflicting stories, recriminations, bitterness nursed in secret. Whatever dwells out there is powerful, ancient, and shrouded. You can't fight what you can't see, but you howl to let it know that you're here. And so does the Theurge. Nothing answers from the rotting woods. There is only silence and the reek of black smoke and rotting god flesh carried on the wind. You'll be back, though, one day, back to cleanse the corruption from this land. Following Elton, you pass Graves Farm and head north paralleling Ashfield Road, a barely paved strip of asphalt between two state forests. The ground is muddy, but the air smells of flowers and new growth. You approach Ashfield from the south, emerging from the woods into a newly planted cornfield across from farmhouses and a motor garage. This appears to be a little-used town common. You and Elton hide behind an abandoned shed beside a crumbling stone wall, and you regain your homid forms. Pulling on your dress, you're able to see the little town with human eyes. On the surface, it reminds you of Hadley, where you explored the ruins of David Benicki's life, another sleepy, almost forgotten New England village. Except, Elton winces as if staring into sun instead of fog. The air smells rancid and scorched, though it's a cool spring day. What are the hardest things to learn as a guru is that we can't always trust our instincts, Elton says. But this town is burning, Morgan. Chapter 3. Melody and the Magic Pumpkin. Sick! Below, on earth, mortal men praised her and appeased her with nameless sacrifices. She moved on unheeding, girt round by somber night, spreading awful shadows through the midnight world. The mandrake felt the touch of her beams and half unloosed its clinging root beneath the soil. Dark hellebore matted itself in the thicket and gave forth this deadly odor. I think it is it hellebora? Hellebore? Spirit flames boil out of the soil, blackening the world. Then an old Chevrolet car putters down the road. It's old but not an antique, heavily used, spotted with rust and barely running. Two men in flannel shirts and overalls spot you at the rock wall and regard you with cold suspicion, bordering on hatred until the old car putters around a bend. Something weird or corrupt about this place, Elton. What's going on? Pumpkins are a naturally occurring phenomenon in rural areas, Morgan, Elton says. They're nothing to be alarmed about. It's not just them, you say. You can't quite articulate what you feel, but Elton nods. The silver things, they taught by example that werewolves should doubt their intuition about what's of the worm. But there's something wrong here. Still, we can't jump to conclusions. It could be the corrupted Kayan, a wayward spirit, could be 1,000 things. I need more information before I can narrow it down. Let's start by heading down to the town centre, such as it is. I rented 2 rooms at a B&B. You pat your wallet. You have exactly $3.09 to your name. I'm paying, Elton says. Someone called a check. A little piece of paper I write my signature on? Damnedest thing. Anyway, a small outlay is worth it to meet the locals. The town's only bed and breakfast is a crooked, gambrel-roofed farmhouse slowly sinking into the mire that constitutes its backyard. It advertises itself with a sign that bangs in the gusty spring breeze. The sign says nothing, only displays crossed sheaves of wheat. The interior is cluttered with colonial bric-a-brac, some useful and heavily worn like the oak bench across the front desk, some beyond use even in this backwards place, like the silver lampy checkered sharp edges, none, and a collection of porcelain wash basins and pitchers. When you and Elton enter, 4 men seated around a crooked table in an adjoining room suddenly fall silent. You recognize one of them from the Chevrolet. An elderly woman in a grey bun and long dress stands behind the front desk, but she doesn't react as you enter, except to narrow her eyes. Are we going to get Wicker Man, Midsommar, Dunwich Horrid? That's good. One sec. We're back. It's just blowing my nose. Anyway, they start off fun. Well, let's go with Wicker Man. No, I like Midsommar. Let's do that. Relax, Morgan. Elton says, sotto voce. This is hardly the strangest room I've walked into. He raises his voice and speaks in a slightly fancier British accent. Good afternoon. My name is Elton Day, and I have 2 rooms for the next few evenings. The woman doesn't not react. Neither do the men around the crooked table. Guilty as charged, baby! I got a thing! Yeah. Well, this is obviously going nowhere, and Elton's cultivated British reserve is rapidly dwindling. Forcing myself to be polite, I approach the desk and offer to sign for the rooms. Some dim sense of professional responsibility finally stirs in the woman behind the desk. Of Of course, she says. Shelley acknowledges Elton when he pulls out his oversized European European wallet. I also see that the facility lacks a your facility lacks a credit card reader, the Theo says, but I've come prepared with the cash and a personal check. What would you prefer? No, fucking mate. Accents are all over the place tonight. My apologies. The offer of money propels the woman into action. She accepts Elton's check and hands both of you physical keys as you sign your name in the registry, which is an actual physical book. You check for other names, but the last guest checked out a week ago and you don't recognize the name. Before you can investigate further, the woman pulls the book away. When you glance up again, one of the men at the table, the one wearing a green coverall like a mechanic, is hurrying away. The rear door bangs. He's in such a rush. You follow the woman upstairs to the rooms. She keeps glancing nervously back at you as you ascend the stairs, but when she finally opens the door, the room looks fine. Quilts on the beds, doilies on the side tables, and a little chandelier with electric lights. The wooden floors are crooked but covered in thick, warm rugs, and when you surreptitiously check for trapdoors under the rug, you don't find any. The rickety wooden fire escape leads up to this floor. That's useful if you need to flee in haste, but also a potential entry point for intruders. The bathroom looks recently remodeled. Recognize the lime green and salmon from the 70s interior design blog that Black Tarn used to follow. A door connects this room to another, basically similar chamber. Bang those slabs of wood. The Midsummer sex cult is a bit too, fascist and eugenicist. The woman leaves without a word, hesitating only long enough to commit each of your faces to memory. No laptops to handle check-in, no one holding a smartphone. That's not just rural, that's so weird it has to tell us something. We're absolutely 100% going to get Midsommar. I checked the locks. It's just a hick town, Elton says. You get treated like this all the time. And it's not like you didn't eat your share of weird racism back home, but this place is stranger than that. You make sure the windows are locked, and then you check the door locks for each room. They won't stop a rampaging Garou, but they'll slow down a pack of crazed humans. As you glance through the warped glass of the old window, you think you see the old man who hurried out of the room, the one in the green coveralls lurking among the trees, but then he's gone. More worried about the lack of internet service, the Theo says as he watches you work. You take out your phone, but only to snap a few pictures and enlarge them. The man isn't in any of them. I mean, it's really strange. Elton goes down. We're a half hour from my ends, not out the bloody moors. Knife Eyes was born in this town. He was another Silver Fang. Linus, you never met him. But you're right, Morgan. This is beyond weird and into ominous. Maybe Melody is responsible, and I don't know. Linus Harriman, Daphne Clear's ex-husband, was born here, and he was a Shadow Lord whose deed name was Knife Eyes. Could that help you find Melody? You don't know. Yeah, Knife Eyes! Fucking great spell, man. Does exactly what it says. Heightens your vision. Makes it real keen. It takes the two of you another 10 minutes to unpack fully and prep multiple escape plans and fallback points in case of disaster. Dr. McNinja! Oh, neat. By the time you're done, it's not quite noon. Plenty of time to look for Melody. I'm worried about the lack of connectivity, Elton says as he jots more notes in the Book of December. But if there's a problem, we can just howl. So let's start our investigation by splitting up, and we'll unite here at 7:30 to pull what we've learned. I'm going to the cemetery. He waves a hand vaguely northward. I'm sure you thought about where to go. Big nerd, remember? Does this place have a town office? I remember having some luck at the Hadley town offices when I investigated David Binnicky. That might lead somewhere useful, Elton says. I'm not investigating the graveyard to look for ghosts. I want names. Names I can compare to registries and the municipal offices. The town hall is right next to the restaurant. Check there, then try the offices. If I finish in the cemetery, I'll investigate the Historical Society. We're looking for anything about Melody, obviously, but we also need to look for anything out of place. Some patience and education should let me find records at the town office. You leave the B&B and spend a few minutes on Main Street confirming what Elton told you. The whitewashed town hall is open to the public. The street outside shows a strange mix of cars, some antique, others some more modern, but strangely bland and timeless. Ford sedans, working trucks, nothing that holds your attention. The town hall is open, so you step inside. The town hall is warm and musty, with a single rattling fan that blows on a police officer stationed at an old wooden desk. No information about whether the wooden desk is being banged. He regards you with a silent hostility before returning to his book, a biography of Theodore Roosevelt. His sidearm, you notice, is modern .45 automatic. The good news is that, unlike certain other town offices you could name, this one is sensibly laid out, with aluminium filing cabinets and wooden shelves carefully labelled, and a large, clear table with a lamp for research. There don't appear to be any computer records or any computers, but you can check the central filing system for P. Palace, as in Melody Palace, the missing werewolf. Nothing in births, deaths, or tax records for Palace. Who did Elton say was from here? Knife Eyes, real name Harriman. The Linus Harriman record is present but tells you little. But according to these records, his sister Linda Harriman married Saul Palace in 1995. Palace. In P, you find Palmers, Planters, Pierces. You can always feel the entropy in these files. Once alphabetized, they've fallen into disorder after years of indifferent rummaging. You find Linda Palace under Palace, and then look for the P for Saul. You go all the way through the files and at last find Saul Palace, the correct spelling, except it's been filed by first name after the Cerners, not last name. This is the sort of organizational mess that makes regular humans go crazy, and it's not any easier as a werewolf. But here, at last, is a file. Saul Palace married Linda Harriman in 1995 in a private ceremony. There's also a list of properties the palace's own. You snap a photo with your phone, and then, stuffed among death and burial records, is a photograph of Saul, Linda, Harmony, age 3 or 4, and Melody, an infant, all bundled up for winter and standing in front of your B&B. You grab the photo, that might be useful. Maybe Elton has learned more by now. Your stomach growls. It's time for a hamburger sandwich and some French fried potatoes, or whatever this time-warp town has to offer a hungry werewolf. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. It would be pretty hard to re-obtain. It sucks, comrade. I never got too far in Dr. McNinja, but my sister... What's her current screen name? My sister really liked it. As you leave, the police officer watches you with an expression of quiet rage. The walkie-talkie on his shoulder hisses with static. He doesn't seem to hear it. You blink to let your eyes adjust to the daylight and spot Elton across the street. Time to eat, he says, stalking angrily past you. Elton has calmed down a bit by the time he reaches the restaurant, though the locals recoil as if a man on fire has just walked inside. He grabs the nearest booth that lets him watch the street. Looks like you're having a bad time. No luck? I try to be sympathetic. A ticket is a point of pride, Elton says. I can blend in most places despite my eccentricities, but every eye in this town is on me. It has been since we arrived. Not you though, just me. I got followed all through the historical building and the cemetery. Get me a coffee? He tells the waitress, though she hadn't planned to stop. Black and a roast beef sandwich. You order a mug of coffee and a sandwich of your own. When the waitress leaves, the theatre says, I just want to find Melody, alive or dead. Ran into some trouble with some local lads, but my knuckles have already healed. Did they have anything interesting on them? What? Like one of them has a matchbook with directions to the secret lair under the supper club? No, they're just dumb hicks, so I knock some teeth out and give them a good scare. They won't be back. The waitress brings him his lunch. Elton slams his coffee like it's bourbon and then says, but I really thought Melody would be at the ceremony behind the Historical Society. That seems like her kind of place. He takes out the Book of December and scans the names he wrote down at the cemetery. Where else could she be, you ask? Anywhere or nowhere. Although I think I'm going to focus on drawing people's attention. I've already got eyes on me and I might be able to keep people away from you so you can work. You exchange details about your morning as you both eat your sandwiches, trying to shake loose some vital revelation that each of you only knows half of. But it doesn't work. Finally, Elton drops cash on the table and says, "We'll meet at 7:30 at B&B. If something goes wrong, Hal. If you hear me, Hal, come running." Two men get up and follow Elton out the door. But you suspect that's the plan. You step outside into a warm spring afternoon, disturbing crows that rise up suddenly and swirl into the leaden sky. As you watch, they scatter in every direction. Your investigations aren't done, and you want to have more to offer Elton by the time you reconvene at the B&B this evening. It's honestly persuasion. I like the softer world. QC was great. Is great, still going. I remained at the restaurant, stay in my best and friendliest behaviour so I don't freak out the normals, and ask questions. Rural folk eat early, so you just nurse a few mugs of coffee, listen in on the waitresses, and wait for the dinner crowd to arrive. In less than an hour, the restaurant starts to fill up again. "Looking for something else?" the waitress asks. You've received lots of icy glares here, but the middle-aged woman seems friendly. So, as to not draw attention, you order the soup of the day and a slice of pie, then try asking the waitress about Melody. But another table draws her attention. The good news is that the chicken soup and the strawberry rhubarb pie are both delicious, but you can't get anyone to talk. The tight-lipped Yankees, of course, but more than that, you can't make sense of them or understand why they're so strange. Cultists. Time travelers. Ghosts that died back in Eisenhower times don't know that they're dead. Maybe the ghost angle might work. Melody's sister Harmony is dead, you recall, so as you pay the waitress, you say, "Excuse me, but I'm looking for someone I know. Harmony Palace. Do you know if she's in town?" I don't know Harmony," the waitress says, "but I remember maybe it was her mom, Linda Palace." "Is she around, you ask?" "Died a few years back, God rest her," the waitress says. "Her and her husband saw, very sad." "Died and were buried, you ask?" "Maybe it's a stupid question, but you have an idea." "Yeah," the waitress says, "they're together at..." Confused, she wanders away. But now you have something to look for. The cemetery isn't far, and maybe the palaces are waiting for you there. Ashfield isn't a big town, and you reach a cemetery after just a few minutes. You walk along crumbling stone walls, past ancient toppled grave markers, looking for anything as the light fades, and then you notice something out of place. New gravestones. They're already crumbling, but they're not mere humps of stone like the others. After wiping away splatters of mud, you can read the names: Zorl and Linda Palace. Their death dates list the same year as the Battle of Graves Farm. A huge, gnarled yew tree grows nearby, grey as a corpse. A low building screened by dying trees is visible between the grave markers in the darkness of twilight. Either a shed or a mausoleum, it appears entirely covered in crows. They watch your approach. You're within 20 yards when they start to take flight. Black shapes against the black sky, they swirl up and over the trees. More rise up, and more, and the building you've been looking at seems to crumble into ruins before your eyes. And then even more crows rise into the sky, cawing wildly, and in seconds there's no building at all, just a low, vaguely rectangular expanse of grass. Not so different from the hillock where the Fomor David Benicki visited the corpse of his lover. And as the light of the sun fades, a rectangular outline appears on the west hill and clods of grassy earth tumble away, revealing a door of white stone. It swings open. Firelight glows faintly within. It's pretty cute. As Beowulf encountered the mighty Grendel and beat his ass, I prepared to delve into the bowels of the earth and beat up monsters. Stopping to think tactically, you wonder if this is some sort of fortress. But you think you're looking at a receiving vault used to hold the bodies of the dead during the long New England winters when they cannot be buried. One hand in your dress on the hilt of your machete, you march into a rectangular hall cluttered with colonial furniture, a spindle-back chair, a plain oak table, an intricately carved trunk, Heavy, worm-eaten curtains cover the brick walls. A brass lamp hung from a rotting wooden roof beam, fitted with coloured glass, illuminates the walls in yellow and green. Chains support the lamp, and more chains run across the ceiling and are partially hidden by curtains. The mechanism of the door is at least partially mechanical, it seems. The werewolf sits on a carved stump directly beneath the lamp, her green eyes on you, one clawed hand toying with a game piece carved of bone. Black dirt streaks her grey fur. Maggots squirm on the game board in front of her. Puppy! Puppy! Hello! A gesture to the game piece. Forgot your switch, huh? But think carefully before you speak, the werewolf says before you utter a syllable. Her voice carries a note of easy command. Then a Krinos form is gone and a young woman sits in the chair. Curly auburn hair so voluminous it hides her nakedness. Then she's a wolf, then all 5 forms at once, a kaleidoscope of limbs and fangs. Words shape her inner reality, and that is all the spirits care about. I am the last palace. But who are you, pup? Your spirit is so weak I could barely see you. 10 eyes seek you in the darkness of the Umbra as something man-shaped and yet unformed shimmers behind Melody's stump throne. I found this family portrait. I give her the photo I took. Who are you, pup? Is what she's actually asking, so... I deal with wayward spirits. I'm the one who destroyed the Fomor, David Binicki. Oh, Melody says. So you're a mighty warrior, are you? And now you've plunged into the earth like the old heroes of the Garou looking for monsters to slay. Spirit precedes substance. Cut down a tree in the real world and the tree spirit might heal. Kill the tree spirit though, and though the physical object may linger on for a while, everyone can see that the tree is dead. But spirit also precedes essence in a chronological sense. When I was a girl, I could sometimes look into the Umbra and see the future, the wraiths of cancer in the home of a man still young and healthy. The shadows of love or hate, enmity or betrayal, years before they tumbled out of the spirit world and congealed in this one. Not an image of a naked redhead, but certainly a naked redhead whose hair is so voluminous and curly that she did not need any clothes. Good job. Now look into the Umbra and see the truth of God's creation. The truth is that it is dead already. You can taste the rotten meat that was once a living thing. It is like a tree with the tree spirit already killed. It still has shape, and its leaves still rustle dryly in the wind. But there is no earth there, no Gaia, no true life. The spirit is gone, and the substance has already begun to crumble. The spirit behind Melody drags physical material into the form of a rough physical body. You can see a crown of spring flowers, and he holds a delicate wand of green shoots. Something red-black holds him together and darkens the scrap of leaf and root he has formed into a robe. Blood. You think it's Melody's blood. The spirit craves worship, you realize. Worship, ritual, traditions, cycles. His eyes are spirals, seasons, aeons, and he's growing stronger. You don't think the spirit has the power to seize control of your life story like the Stormcat does, at least not yet, but he's pushing, straining in that direction, growing more powerful on sacrifice and obeisance. The litany sustains us. And so I think we're not saying the rules of the Garou suck. I focus on my fellow Garou and my obligations to her. Melody, we need to get you out of here and back to your pack. Your spirit seems to look into your soul and approve of what it sees. It bows slightly, then fades back into the Umbra. Maybe you understand, Melody says. You command the spirit world by understanding who you are. The Vernal King sees that you understood yourself. She toys with her game piece. Sorry. Yeah, I do love to live in. Absolutely. No wonder I've immediately fallen into that part. Getting practice. She toys with a game piece. To be a werewolf is to change, and to be changed, to have no center, no essential self. A werewolf is a hurricane, nothing solid, only motion, only a phenomenon. 2024, October long weekend. Not a person, not a creature, not a thing. We are only a tangle of winds directed by... who knows what. We direct the chaos of ourselves into the spirit world to enact our will. You have shown that you understand how to do that. But I still don't understand why you're here. What do you expect to accomplish? Tell me about the engineering in this place, Melody. I study the chains running along the ceiling to see how they work. We were great builders once, Melody says as you follow the chains with your eyes. The silver fangs of this land. We brought secrets over from the mound builders and the clockmakers of the old world and combined our knowledge with the emerging industry of New England's mill towns. Glasswalkers play with their digital toys and bone gnawers cobble together their dirty trinkets, but the silver fangs of Broadbrook Cairn were smiths and artisans. When my sister Harmony revealed her talent for supernatural workings, she combined her alchemy and metallurgy with our techniques. We're on the verge of something great. Melody's history lesson is interesting, but you're more interested in how these chains actually work. You just can't figure it out. It's like pieces are missing. Maybe the work is incomplete or damaged, or maybe it's as full of holes as Melody's thoughts. Whatever the cause, you can't figure it out. And before you can ask the Silver Fang more questions, the light of an oil lamp spills from a tunnel on the far wall. You need to go, Melody says. Elijah where? Elijah where? Probably where is coming. The priest, the Vernal King's priest. Your expression seems to reveal your confidence. So Melody says, they have silver and the Neshiah tree. But it's not just that. You see the hopelessness in Melody's eyes. Her expression tells you that she's bound here by the Vernal King's rights and bans, and killing a heathen priest won't change that. Tell Elton I will speak with him tomorrow night before the rite, Melody says. What rite? I'm still desperate for more information. The rite of spring is the day after tomorrow, Melody says. Now go. You want to ask more questions, but as the lamplight grows brighter, you retreat back the way you came. When you turn, the white door closes, and suddenly the door is gone, leaving only smooth grass. It's pitch black, and the half moon is obscured by low clouds that threaten rain. You check your phone. It's 8:45 p.m. How did you lose so much time? You were supposed to meet Elton hours ago. You set out toward the cemetery's entrance, and then you stop. Where did that big dead tree go? Then you see it in the sky. The yew crawls through the air, jet black against the cloudy blue-black sky, its branches writhing, its roots full of grave stuff. The smell of rot hits you like a cloud of gnats. Crows sit in the tree's branches or circle it in low, lazy arcs. Then the tree stops in mid-air. Considering what its arrival portends when the tree suddenly dives towards you, lashing out with one of its largest branches. You scramble out of the way, and its bulk smashes a half-dozen tombstones, showering you with rubble and clods of black earth. It rushes you again, and as you run, you try to figure out what to do. I drop off the side wall of the cemetery and hide, which will take both cunning and stamina. The cliff-like western face of the cemetery is full of shadows and crannies where you can hide. Oh shit. You duck a sweeping branch and sprint past crumpling grave markers, and hop the stone wall and drop down into the darkness. You hold on and push deeper into the darkness. Hello, violets. You hold on and push deeper into the darkness as the tree floats out above you, drifting silently against the blackness of the cloudy sky, limbs testing the air like the tentacles of some rudimentary underwater organism. It hovers in silence, branches twitching, black grave dirt trickles out from between its twisted bowl-like roots. The dirt falls on you, and your foot skids. Did it hear you? Can it even hear? Several seconds pass. And you think you're clear, and then a tree drops like a stone right on top of you. The force of the impact knocks you off the wall and sends you tumbling into the wooded glade below the cemetery. The tree drops again, and you scramble back up your feet and roll. You catch another branch across the back, but you roll into the woods and keep moving, limping a little because you landed badly on your ankle, but the tree seems to have lost you. Crouching low into the darkness, you watch as it passes slowly overhead, hunting. Then it rises up and disappears into the low black clouds. Where have you been? Elton says, poking his head out of the window of the B&B. You're not my mum, Elton. Your mum would probably drag you into a bath by the ear, Morgan. Look at you, Elton says. Wipe your feet before when you come in. You look down at your hands and realize exactly how much dirt covers you from your fight with the tree. First thing you do is take a very long shower since you're covered in filth. From the state of Elton's apartment, you never thought of him as particularly tidy, but apparently grave dirt is a step too far, even for the Theurge. I shift and regenerate fully. When you first learned of werewolves' amazing regenerative powers, you didn't appreciate how you'd experience all the pain of a month-long recovery in a few minutes. Now you know how your flesh gropes clumsily like a blind man, sealing itself back together, repairing torn nerve endings in a frenzy of agonizing life urge. In seconds, the living energy of Gaia has healed you inside and out and left you shuddering from pain and nausea. You lean your head against the tiles and watch as black rivulets flow off your body and down the drain. Make sure no more blood is clinging to your skin, and then you dry yourself off. And you check the landscapes and the walls for peepholes or anything else weird. Once you've showered, you gnaw on a pizza crust while checking the landscapes on the walls. Huh! Yeah. Look at that! It's doubled up! Call that a puzzle plus, baby. You know, on a pizza crust while checking the landscapes on the walls for peepholes or anything else weird. So, Elton says, is he... Oh no! So, Elton says, is ignoring a crust. Did you have a first date? Did you have a good day at school? You fill him in on your investigations, jumping ahead to the monstrous flying yew tree and then backtracking to your meeting with Melody. Elton has you go over every word. You make sure to cover every detail as you remember from your day's investigation, and you listen as the Theurge describes his activities. I was also able to identify Elijah Ware, this alleged priest, because he visited a cemetery where he spent most of my day. Of course, now we know I was in the wrong cemetery the whole time, but I learned something from the Historical Society building nearby. The director there, another man we saw downstairs when we first arrived, tried to hide the town's regular festivals from me. Festivals, you ask? Reevaluating the chance that both of you are going to get midsummered before this is all over. 3 per year for the past 3 years, Elton says. Each involved both Elijah Ware and Lucy Sheit. The latter is the owner of this B&B. We're coming up on the Spring Festival for the DerGolemKing. I tried to hide the pictures that they've taken, but Melody and Elijah Ware presided over all of them. Our obligation now is twofold. First, we must rescue our lost packmate, and second, as Guru, we cannot permit some groy little nature spirit to lord over mortals. A spirit appears to have wandered out of his natural place. How do we restore his proper role in the ecosystem? The first step to controlling or placating a spirit is understanding its function, Elton says. I learned a little at the Historical Society, but first thing tomorrow, I'm hitting the library. I had lived a little there, my bad. Usually 8:30 would be break time. We had a delayed start. I'm going to push through and keep going for as long as my voice holds together and mental state keeps up. So, we'll see. I'm also keeping an eye on the phone in case Emma Stitches asks for help with baby K, or a message from Lexi's like, I don't know how to use your kettle and have desperately, badly scalded myself. Please make me tea. Or something similar. I think it's likely probably finishing around 9. So let's just keep going for a little bit longer. We have 3 days until the spring equinox. Alright. A rattle from downstairs. Elton cracks the door and then shakes his head. He doesn't see anyone. One of us will remain on guard at all times tonight, he says. I'm starting to worry about how much power these people can command. Tomorrow we need to speak to Melody again, if at all possible, investigate the town to learn who knows about the DerGolemKing, and figure out what this ritual is all about. We have 3 days till the spring equinox. As Elton starts to settle down, you take the first watch, peering through the windows and listening for sounds down below, but everything is quiet. After a few hours, Elton relieves you and you crawl into bed. As you fall asleep, your brain keeps replaying everything you saw in Melody's barrow, trying to piece together what you're missing. You know you're missing something. Your dreams are fragmented and cyclical, looping back on themselves in an endless, brutal procession, like seasons that come and go without any real change. The only dream you can remember is a nightmare. A family dog goes into a cave. You hear it yelping and howling all around the hillock that the cave leads into. It keeps howling till it's drowned out by other voices laughing with cruel delight. And then suddenly it's silent. Oh, that's awful. Morgan, Elton says, wake up. Alarming events have transpired. It's a half hour before sunrise when you stumble to the window and tug it open. The morning air is bitterly cold and the streets are so fog-shrouded that for a moment you can't see anything. When your eyes adjust to the unexpected murk, you see pastel ribbons and spring flowers wrapped around utility poles and stop signs down below. They're everywhere, in such profusion that either a whole army must have come through here or everyone participated in the setup while you slept. Is this rite tied to a May Day or fertility festival? We need more information and fast. That was my thought, Elton says. From what I can see, the DerGolemKing's rituals match certain European... Fuck, that's an intelligent joke. In French, you pronounce European as European. European. And sorry, it's stuck in my head now. The DerGolemKing's rituals match certain European spring festivals that lingered into Christian era. Actual pagan survivals are rare and almost non-existent in the Americas because genuine survivals require native spirits, and the native spirits here are native. Not Irish fairies, you know? So we need to learn more about the DerGolemKing. And to that end, I want to visit the library and learn more about whatever rite is unfolding here and how to stop it. When should we meet up again? 7 o'clock sharp, Elton says, and I want to avoid this B&B. We'll use the town common. I return to Hill Cemetery and speak with Melody again to help rebuild our pack. Breakfast is laid out around the downstairs table of the B&B, though you don't see Ms. Shay, or Mrs. Shay. You sniff for poison, then take pictures of the dolls that have started to appear, little flower maidens in pale dresses, and then the miniature maypoles. After eating, you step cautiously outside into the quiet but earnest preparations for the spring festival. Pastel streamers adorn the fence across the street and would probably decorate the stoplights if this town had a stoplight. Fog hangs heavy over the preparations, and workers move like ghosts through the murk. The decorations thin out as you head south and west past the golf course. If the festivities involve some kind of parade, then probably won't go this way. The only excitement as you walk is a old Jeep that suddenly swerves onto the shoulder. You get out of the way, but the occupant of the vehicle hurls a bottle at you, and they skid to a halt 20 feet away. Not blowing my investigation with a fist fight, I get off the road. You hurry off the road, ducking one last thrown bottle. When you're all the way under cover, you hear a gunshot and instinctively drop, but then the truck screams away. It soon disappears into the fog. What unpleasant people. The police officer you remember from the town hall guards of the ancient cemetery's main entrance, seated in his modern SUV, but you cut through the woods and climb up the wall there. The white door you found yesterday is closed, already hidden by mud and moss, but you find a strange cleft in the earth nearby that resembles a grave dug recently and inexpertly. Turning on your phone's flashlight, you descend, one hand digging into the soft black earth to steady yourself and pass through a narrow tunnel. The journey helps you understand why people don't like the word moist, but the cold, damp tube eventually deposits you inside Melody's barrow. You find yourself among the cluttered paraphernalia of ritual, backstage in the magician's traveling show. A battered hurricane lantern illuminates a squalid bed, an antique earthenware ewer and basin, and a wardrobe that someone painted eggshell blue maybe a century ago. Paperbacks and magazines from the 1920s cover an unsteady dining table, hiding a place setting for one. The young woman who steps out of the shadows wears a plain green dress that hangs to her dirty knees. Wooden clogs keep her feet off the dirt floor. Her chestnut hair is a rat's nest. Melody's mad grandeur is much diminished without the glamour of her other shapes overlapping her natural form. Now she looks like a bus stop schizophrenic. "I'm sorry that the Nashia tree attacked you," the Silver Fang says. "You angered the Vernal King. I can't always reason with the Triple King in any of his guises. It's not a good idea for you to be here." "We started to rebuild, Elton and I. You're our first stop, and let's do this." "I found this family portrait. I give her the photo I took." Take out the photograph and show it to Melody. She cautiously takes it from you and studies the photograph of her parents. Her dirty fingers linger on the smiling face of her older sister. That was a long time ago," she says. You can't read her expression when she looks at you again. "So you've really come looking for me?" "You don't look so great, Melody. We need to get her out of here." "My sister once told me that Yetis are real," Melody says, the mad gleam returning to her eyes. "They dwelt on high mountain tops, freezing and smeared in the blood and shit of their prey, fur yellowed by the flow of salt and urine, and they noticed none of it because their goal was enlightenment. The flesh meant nothing to them. They had fixed their sight on something higher. They didn't even know they were killing and eating you. They were too pure." She doesn't elaborate. Instead, she wanders back into the barrow's main chamber to her tree stump throne. The glamour of the barrow has faded since your last visit. It's just a dirty underground chamber now. I know what's happening to me now," the Philodox says. "The Vernal King is going to start killing soon. The power he gains when twisting these people's mind, twisting my mind, isn't enough anymore. He needs sacrifice." It's like she wants to tell you more, but something is still restraining her. The Vernal King has his hooks in deep. I try to heal her mind. No, let's actually try this. What's this game? I study the unfamiliar pieces in the board. "A rage for symmetry infects our play," Melody says, falsely letting us believe that life is fair. She gestures to the beautifully carved wooden board, which shows a central grouping of white bone pieces surrounded by a larger force of red clay tokens. The Taffel game is inherently asymmetric. Unlike chess, there is only a single king. The goal of the king's player is to ensure the escape to one of the four corners of the board. The goal of the encircling player is to capture the king. This version of the Taffel game, called Najwizi Kroll, is otherwise lost, but the three families played it. Melody sounds quite lucid as she explains the details of the game's rules, which resemble chess in the particulars, but you imagine plain out nothing like it. "Tell you what, if I can beat you in the Taffel game, I want you to tell me what's really going on here." Melody smiles shrewdly, reassembles the board. She brushes a few maggots off the table. They fall squirming onto the cold black earth. Asymmetry is built into the game. My friend Catherine revised the rule set to bring Najwizi Kroll into closer mathematical parity than chess, but in the traditional game, which we will play here for simplicity's sake, the encircling army, red, has the advantage. I encourage you to start with red. Very well, I'll play the encircling army. It's Thud? Melody finishes setting... I haven't read Thud. We're referring to the Terry Pratchett book, right? Melody finishes setting up the oblong board and gestures for you to sit. Yeah! You drag an antique wooden chair into position. As you study the board and try to remember what Clay taught you about chess, you consider how you're going to play against the Philodox. Got an option to just cheat. We're not good at cheating, though. So we're just going to go... Use our stats, baby. Use our stats. Intelligence and academics. Think back to those chess articles I read and play like the experts I've studied. Melody plays with less skill than you had feared, as if more than one person were playing against you and they couldn't agree on the moves. You concentrate, fearing a trick, but there is no sudden reversal across a dozen back-and-forth skirmishes. Then in 3 quick and decisive maneuvers of your castle, you capture her king. So you won, Melody says, brushing her long hair out of her eyes. And I suppose you want answers. I do, you say. Do you know Saramir? Melody asks. He played tight end for the Bills, right? You say. No, he was the boar of the Aesir, you say, who was slaughtered to feed the gods every night and who rose again every morning. Impressive, Melody says. This, I'm afraid to say, is the role I now accompany for Ashfield and for the Triple King. The Triple King, you ask? Not just the Vernal King, the Silver Fang says. He's also the Summer King at midsummer and the Harvest King in autumn. Settlers brought him here in the early 20th century and he thrived for the 1920s and 30s. He thrived upon my ancestor, a woman named Gertrude Ware. When she was used up, he fell into slumber until I arrived. Gertrude Ware was a guru. This thing hunts our people. The Triple King needs to go. She was related to the guru in the palace as a human member of the 3 families, Melody says. But she died. She wasted away. I think the Triple King had plans for her that he couldn't fulfill. But now with me, I think the Vernal King is planning to advance or to evolve or to leave the confines of this little town. For that, he will need power, flesh, and obeisance. I'm not blind or deaf in this prison. I've heard that the priests are planning a sacrifice for this vernal equinox. A human sacrifice, I'm sure of it. The lamp overhead flickers and starts to burn almost as bright as daylight, casting lunatic shadows across the brick walls and rotten curtains. The Vernal King is coming back, the Silver Fang says. You can't fight him here. Get out. Wait for the Spring Festival. I'll be back, Melody. I promise. We're going to stop this thing and get you out of here. Melody nods. She looks relieved, even as the Vernal King rises up out of the ember, growing more imminent, but not more solid in a way that might let you attack him. The white door opens and you step back outside into the graveyard. You head for the town common where Elton told you to meet him. Along the way, you see even more signs of the coming spring festival. Elton is where he's supposed to be, so you fill him in on everything that happened. He listens attentively, and then turns to the important subject of where to have dinner. Elton looks around. Where can we get something to eat? Well, that would have been convenient. I'm with Comrade on that one. Where can we get something to eat when no one will watch us? Is there a gas station in town, you ask? Do they have anything? I hope for something in the manner of a French bistro, Elton says with a sigh. But that will have to do. Lots of furtive activity in town, glimpsed dimly through fog as you follow Elton. It sets you on edge. Do you hear that? Elton asks. A regular thumping, maybe an engine. Following the sound, you spot a procession winding east down Main Street, led by the garage owner Elijah Ware and the B&B proprietress Lucy Shea, followed by the librarian and another woman beating drums. Dozens of revelers in stark green or white robes follow them. That's not bloody fair, Elton says. We still have 2 days until the spring equinox. I was planning on that. Damn it, this Vernal King can't even manage a simple calendar. Maybe they rejected the Gregorian calendar reforms of 1582. I bet pagans would do that. Yeah, stark green. Calendars are hard. I'm glad you agree with me. Jeez. I need to figure out what to do with basically no information, Elton says. And you tell him jokes? Where's Melody? Our goal is returning her to the pack. We should check her barrow, maybe even pull her out of there. Good idea, Elton says. Get back to the cemetery and see if you can find anything there. Damn it, my timeline is ruined. I'm gonna follow the procession and see where it leads. Wary of that tree that attacked you before. What a statement! You hurry southwest through the deserted golf course to the cemetery. The police SUV is still there, though you don't see the officer until you reach the barrow itself. The door is open, and the officer waits on guard, cradling his shotgun. But you know about the other entrance. You circle around to the split in the earth and cautiously push on the side door. It opens. Both this room and the throne room are empty. Melody is gone. Loose sheets of handwritten notes cover the stump throne and spill down onto the floor. You see diagrams of what might be the Vernal King and some kind of vehicle that reminds you of the pumpkin coach from Cinderella. Looks like Melody was suddenly interrupted as scattered beside a bed are Polaroids of her, Harmony, and the other members of 3 families of Broadbrook Cairn, plus some physical correspondence from their high school years, flyers for clubs and shows, and other physical detritus. There you go. Detritus of a happier life. The lamp suddenly turns back on. It's an oil lamp. They're not supposed to do that. Either you've triggered some kind of ward or the Vernal King is starting to manifest again. Oh, I wish. I really hope we get to do that one as well, but we really need the notes. I grabbed the notes about the ritual. You're going to need to read that to figure out what's happening. The notes appear torn from a spiral-bound notebook, written in blue and black pen in what you guess is Melody's handwriting. They detailed several different rituals that the Triple King demands of his followers. You don't have time to read the whole thing, but Melody's notes mention sacrifice on several occasions. You and Elton need to read this fast. You skim a few more pages and stuff the papers into your dress. The procession emerges from the thinning fog, damn it, and crosses the wide grassy field around the outdoor theatre. "Did you see Mr. Ware?" Elton asks. You shake your head. "Probably not in his green dungarees anymore," Elton says. "Keep an eye out for him." Melody walks behind the multitude, dressed in a gown and elaborate fanned headdress, surrounded by masked guards armed with shotguns and silver sickles. That's not good. Behind her, 2 men carry what first looks like a gilded cauldron covered in spring flowers and lit tapers. As it gets closer, you recognize a drawing from Melody's notes. It's a huge pumpkin, intricately carved with ritual scenes and inlaid with gold. "As a holy of holies," Elton says. "Vernal King's magic lamp. His tabernacle. I was able to, talk to one of the priests. I think I understand Outliner's right. It's a marriage ritual, repeated 3 times per year between the Triple King, currently with spring form as the Vernal King, and Melody. And it's a sacrifice. Blood will flow tonight. I wish I knew more, though. Does this help?" you ask, holding up Melody's bundle's notes. "Great Gaia. How'd you get all this?" My question is, why do humans know all about the spirit world? We need to put a lid on this. Elton reads frantically as he talks. "Okay, we're looking at a kind of ritual narrative. This is incredible. I see evidence of Siberian shamanism and the separation and reintegration of times and places. In this context, it symbolizes a physical and spiritual dissection of the shaman hero and his reintegration, transformed and perfected. But more importantly, the ritual requires 4 participants: Melody, the Vernal King, a hero, and a kind of dragon or monster figure. If I understand Melody's notes correctly, the Vernal King gains power by twisting the ritual and killing the hero. I have an idea. Morgan, if you could take on the role of the hero, you could symbolically thwart this ritual before the Vernal King does, disrupting the Vernal King's hold over the town and letting us rescue Melody. And perhaps grab the spirit." Grab it? How many Garou can command delusion powers like the Vernal King wields? Elton says. "Might that not be useful as we rebuild? If you can weaken enough through ritual, Melody or I might be able to command it. I know, while we're, busy. I know we're, busy, but it's something to consider." How do I conduct a ritual properly? Or, I suppose, improperly? "If we're lucky," Elton says, "we'll be able to snag a copy of your lines as Melody's note don't contain his transcript. Once we'll get you into the hero costume, follow your intuition and your sense of self. That's what spirits react to. But the first step is getting costume," you observe. "I think that's him," Elton says, pointing to a man not far from Melody. A young man with a prematurely lined face, he looks like one of the many drifters and wanderers you've met over the years. His expression shows a mix of exultation and fear mixed with a heavy intoxication. He staggers a little as he walks. He's dressed in ceremonial armor and wears a wooden sword at his waist. Let's grab him and take the costume, Elton says. Let's be careful not to hurt the current hero. He looks like a kidnapping victim. He's a victim here. We mostly need to get him away from his captors, Elton says. I'm less concerned with their bodily integrity, nor am I particularly worried about them as threats. Look at him. Look at everyone. Elton might be right. People are glassy-eyed and vacant. Even the guards seem lost. The procession flies down toward the barn you were just in and forms a loose semicircle. Sickle-armed guards herd the hero and a dazed-looking Melody towards a patch of open grass. Others set down the gilded pumpkin that contains the vernal king and run chains between it and the stage. Lucy Shea lights 2 rows of copper braziers, marking a path between the stage and the pond. The owner of the B&B wears a deer mask, and from the way she walks, she's armed with more than just a torch. Spiritual energy floods out of the pumpkin. The grass ripples and the fog swirls. There's more chatter from the police radios. The vernal king is strong, Elton says, but not invincible. If we carry off this rite well enough, I think we might even be able to bind them. That might be useful. Not many guru can manipulate people's thoughts and sense impressions. And if we could weaken them enough that Melody or I could... CB3. So this one is... This text probably happens no matter what. And we only get, like, the extra information on how to bind him because we got the ritual information. I kind of like being able to see the connections in how the novel works. Because, yes, if I become a really good author, I would give one of these a try to create. Right, bodily function complete. CB3, do you copy? I repeat, the intruders are moving towards the lake, do you copy? But the police and guards don't respond. It's like they can't hear it, Elton whispers. You point towards another peculiar sight. A jeep rumbles across the grass, then slows to a halt. A driver gets out, confused, and stares at the jeep like it's nothing he's ever seen before. You're not sure, but you think the people of Ashfield are mentally regressing further, so far that they can't understand radios or internal combustion engines. I welcome the chance to participate in a strange ritual. Let's grab the hero costume and try the rite. Give me a second, Elton says. Shadows spread toward the armored hero. Elton crawls towards him on all fours, slipping effortlessly past the deer-masked Miss Shea and avoiding the light of her braziers. There's a thump in the darkness, and a moment later, Elton returns, carrying the drifter over his shoulder. He sets the terrified man down and says, "It's your lucky day, my friend. No one is slitting your throat." As he speaks, he strips the man of his costume. "Lest they catch you, I encourage you to run." The man runs, vanishing into the fog. He donned the bronze armor, the ceremonial sword, and the mitre of the hero. "It's interesting," Elton observes. "What constitutes a serious obstacle for the Gru and what does not? I'm going to position myself just south of where you are. If things go wrong, grab Melody and we'll clear a path together into the woods." Then a voice rings out across the fields. "The rains have not come and the fields are grey. When will the wheel turn? When will the snows retreat?" That's Melody, resplendent in her floral headdress, standing on a raised wooden platform between the 2 barns. She stands next to the rune-carved pumpkin where the vernal king resides and surrounded by robed men with torches. All eyes turn to you. There's no recognition of anything unusual in their vacant gazes. By contrast, Melody seems all entirely lucid now. Her expression ultimately shows anticipation, dread, and terrible rage. It's time. You approach the stage. The ritual opens with a long monologue by Melody. As she speaks, she surreptitiously hands you a pamphlet containing the text of the play. Just like you thought, this is a rather simplistic hero's journey plot. It involves a young hero in a kingdom cursed by an endless winter, who travels to a faraway land, fights the cold drake, and recovers the golden flower to bring about spring. Your frantic reading reveals 3 acts. The initial journey to the land of the golden flower, the battle against the cold drake, and a tricky negotiation to get the flower maiden, that's Melody, to accept the flower and a marriage offer. The only problem is that your dialogue has been crossed out and rewritten multiple times, producing a confused palimpsest of motivations and personalities for the hero. The handwriting is different each time too. Melody's ringing voice fades, and the chorus starts up. Who will stop the cold, and how? Who will, as they chant? Melody leans towards you and whispers, "You've met the Vernal King before. He's like any other spirit. Bind him with who you are, Morgan. Command him with your own." "Is there anyone brave enough?" the chorus booms. "Is there anyone true enough?" That's your cue. You step forward, drawing 100 vacant gazes. Not even the priests seem to realize that you're not the drifter. Spiritual energy boils from the huge cauldron-like pumpkin as you speak the printed lines. "I will do this thing. I will fight this thing. I will find this thing. I will earn the love of the flower maiden." "But how?" the chorus intones. "How will you cross the night bridge to the land of flowers? All who have tried have perished." Here's where the text turns into a palimpsest. You scan the many possible lines, seeking one that's in accord with your nature, and speak. It's not a good one, that's for sure. Jesus. "I know the spirits of these lands and seek their aid." You head down toward the lake, and two members of the audience, both wearing frog masks to indicate that they are spirits of water, step into your path. You raise your hand and they bow, and then lead you courteously down toward the lake. It appears to have worked. You feel the Vernal King seething as your conviction starts to bind him. The audience that gathers around the water seems entirely hypnotized now. By contrast, Melody waits on the stage and trembles with manic excitement, like an amateur thespian overselling Ophelia. I haven't heard it, like, out loud, either ever or in enough time for me to remember, so I'm winging it. The choral recitation starts up again. Guards carry the pumpkin downslope past the braziers to your location and veil it behind the tacky-looking brazen palm leaves. The chorus describes the hero's victories and travails. You act them out according to the stage directions you've been given, lulling the audience deep into a hypnotic state. And then Melody cries, "Beware, hero! The cold drake rises!" Even as she speaks, a man dressed all in blue and green rises out of the pond, water streaming down his metal scales, which flash orange in the torchlight. It's Elijah Ware. He regards you with the same cold, barely suppressed hatred you saw in his eyes the first time he looked at you seated at the B&B. The same hatred you've seen all over town these past few days. Mr. Ware recites his lines with vigor, describing the dragon's various modes and methods of invincibility in the manner of Odin describing the runes he's learned. The recitation goes on long enough that you're able to scan your lines again as Elton moves into position around the lake. Then the chorus chants again. "How will you overcome the dragon, O hero?" is the gist of it, and you're on again. You flip through the palimpsest, hoping one of these lines will resonate with the Vernal King and with your own nature. "I defeat the cold drake by following and invoking the law, as I am a faithful servant of the gods and my kingdom's elders." Despite Elijah Ware's metal fangs, this conflict is largely symbolic, and you make it more symbolic still by invoking your mastery of the law. Those who are perfect in their dharma command the respect of the entire world, and while under other circumstances you might want to speculate about how Eastern European paganism intersects with the Indo-Aryan concepts of natural law, right now you're just happy to realize that Elijah Ware plays along. The cold drake symbolically weakens as you recite lines that assert your authority as a lawgiver and a faithful servant of the gods. The pumpkin trembles again as you bind the Vernal King with your flawless mastery of ritual proprietary. You continue the ritual, symbolically claiming the chain-wrapped pumpkin that represents the golden flower, and preparing to set out on your return journey, where you'll use the flower to free your land of winter and marry the flower maiden. As you recite the words of binding over the pumpkin, you can feel the Vernal King's frustration and rage because this rite really is binding him. Could you, perhaps with Melody's help, permanently bind the Triple King to Broadbrook and exploit his powers to protect your territory? You may have a chance, if you can keep this up. The chorus recites more lines. You frantically read ahead. Next, the cold drake is supposed to lash out dramatically, then whisper dire warnings into your ear as it dies. Instead, Elijah Ware creeps forward and you see him pull a knife. A real knife against a spray-painted cardboard breastplate. It looks like Elijah's going off script. That is. He wades through the knee-deep water, utility knife gleaming in the light of the brazier. I keep the narrative going, symbolically killing the dragon. We've got stamina. I just endure the knife wound. I can take it and keep going. Yeah. Welcome along, anti-inflation OPR. There's such a thing as a small knife when someone's trying to slip it between your ribs. But Elijah isn't a trained fighter. You grit your teeth and shift your weight, and he manages a painful but not lethal strike at your abdomen. In hobbit form, it hurts, but you shove him into the water, then recite your lines about claiming the golden flower. The entranced audience shouts with excitement at the unexpected intensity of the drama. Even as you press one hand against your wound, the pumpkin quavers with indignation. You're winning this abstruse contest of spiritual authority. Strange manners distributing knives, that's for sure. Singing and festive drumming accompany your victorious return to your native kingdom with the golden flower in tow. Elton, still hidden in the fog, tenses and gets ready to attack as the Vernal King rises out of his tabernacle. For a moment, he's only a point of gravity, sucking in air and fog, and then roots and grasses and ritual dolls fly up into the air, and he looms over the assembly, twice the height of a man, limning the dry grass with the green radiance of a coming spring and banishing the winter. It's hard to make sense of the fire or light that surrounds him. It's dingy and rusty. Then you remember that it's old blood. Old sacrifices. The king is ablaze with the heart's blood of his cult's offerings. The radiance is what remains of last season's blood, but the spirit wants more. You wince at the fragrant violation of the veil, the part of the litany that demands both Garou and spirits avoid the notice of regular people. The chorus chants as you hike back up the hill between the oil braziers. They describe how the golden flower banishes the winter and thaws the rivers and lakes. Melody sidles up to you. You think the triple king's power is starting to affect you too, since at first you see her as a flower maiden, not as a worried-looking young woman in an oversized headdress. What exactly do you think you're doing? She whispers as the chorus chants around the stage and Elijah Ware crawls through the muck down by the pond. I'd love to make the Blues Brothers reference, but I think, I want her help binding the spirit. We need it. And, the crossover point between Changeling Sheit and Werewolf Sheit is good shite. It's good shite, so we're going to keep going. We're planning to bind the Vernal King and use his powers to keep us safe. Is that allowed? Melody says. You shrug. Last thing you want to do is argue the litany with a silver-fanged Philodox. Might be possible, though, you say. We just beat him down enough with his own right. I like the idea of beating him down, Melody says. Sticking him in a little box. Even better. You can have him, though. You have him, though, as long as you can avoid any mistakes during the, calling of the bride. You flip through the book. Your final task is to persuade the flower maiden that you're a worthy bridegroom. And once it's done, Melody whispers before she gets back into position, you'll just have to survive the Vernal King breaking the narrative. That's what he does, you understand. He feeds on these people through a willful violation of right by stepping out of the narrative and killing the hero. He was going to slit that drifted kid's throat. Wait, so how can I... You start to say, the hero returns, the chorus chants. His bride awaits, but look, she hesitates on the threshold. To slay the cold drake is brave, but killing defiles the spirit. What can he say to persuade her that his intentions are pure? Oh, did we really kill the cold drake? I guess ritual-wise we did. Put him back into the lake. You look around for Elton, interested in any advice he can offer about the Vernal King killing you, but you don't see him. Oh, hero, Melody intones, climbing past the chains up onto the stage. Why should I love a slayer? Right, you're on. You ascend the stage to stand beside Melody. shit. Courage through laughter. Humans must understand. Yeah, I think you're right, comrade. My honor is my armor, my dignity my shield against impurity. Melody, the flower maiden, nods as you speak, and as the lines you recite resonate with your inner nature, so does the assembled crowd. The vernal king, bright as the full moon now, writhes and howls as you bind him with your flawless interpretation of the wedding vows. Okay, Melody whispers, it's time for the Triple King to go off script. Be ready. She sounds lucid, though her green eyes are feverishly bright. She's been waiting for this opportunity for the past 3 years. The Vernal King shouts in a dozen languages, but his followers are in chaos, and his holy light is dimming by the second. He's beaten. The villagers scream and flee, but the right spell broken, but Elijah wears sloshing through the pond, desperately trying to restore some semblance of order. You're not going to let him. Melody snarls as the fighting starts and shifts into a monstrous Krenos form. Elton, you say, pointing towards Elijah Ware. The Theurge rushes the terrified priest and kills him with a single blow, then turns on the others. They barely have time to raise their sickles before they're all dead. As Elton falls back to protect Melody, you turn your attention to the Vernal King. 2 priests carried the strange and elaborate tabernacle with great care and reverence, but the pumpkin itself is only about a foot in diameter. Dodging jagged spikes of stone that leap from the earth as the Vernal King realizes what you're doing, you grab the artifact and run to the shadows of the tree line. Deceiver! The Vernal King roars at the Philodox. You belong to me, child! A bolt of green flame knocks you to the ground, but dwindles into nothingness around Melody and Elton. The Vernal King howls with frustration as Elton reaches out some kind of Garou rune magic, forcing the pumpkin to roll his way. It rolls away from you, skids across the grass, and lands at Melody's feet. She sets her foot atop it like a conqueror. You belong to Gaia, little king, Melody says. You've just forgotten. Then she speaks words of power that were old when the Avars swept across Byzantium. The Vernal King howls again, as for just a moment the fulcrum of the whole world turns around the little pumpkin, and he falls like Satan out of heaven faster than your eye can track, and vanishes with a thunderclap into his graven prison. Roots and leaves and worms and little wicker dolls rain down on the field as his stolen body returns to the earth. Melody gives Elton a little fist bump and picks up the pumpkin. He's mine, she says. Let's go. The priests and guards are almost all dead, and the survivors are in full retreat. You signal for everyone to escape into the south woods. You flee into the woods for a few minutes, but then everyone seems to remember that you left your attackers dead and mangled, and there's no reason to run. Everyone stops in an open glade to change back into the homid forms. Next, a few confused minutes with phone flashlights and plastic bags full of clothes as everyone gets dressed. Melody's hair is larger than the headdress she wore as a flower maiden. She keeps trying to push it down. What happened to my barrows? She asks. While I was away. David Binnicky took them over and turned into a Furmore, Elton says. Oh. First, I shift into my Glabro form and regenerate from my injuries. Shift and regenerate fully. Your wound's closed. You lived in the barrows? Silverfangs are weird. I didn't live in a cemetery, Morgan, Melody says. I'm not crazy, and it's Elton who went through an ill-considered goth phase in high school, not me. Emo? Elton says. My dad was a goth. No, the Philodox says. We kept a house near the barrows, but not within them, and that's where I intend to return. It seems I have a lot of work to do. Elton and Melody chat easily as they walk through the dark woods, as if they haven't seen each other for 3 days instead of 3 years. Then when the conversation turns to those they've lost, Elton's wife Catherine, Melody's sister Harmony, parents, friends, humans, and Garou all gone, does the conversation grow tense. The 3 families all but extinct and the werewolf elders dead, Elton and Melody are the most senior of the Garou. The Shadow Lord and the Silver Fang are the last heirs of a dead hierarchy. You can almost feel their friendship straining as they instinctively vie for dominance. You're starting to wonder if you're just going to walk the 5 hours back to Northampton when Roscoe's van rolls up. Melody, he says. He sounds almost too stunned for emotion. Roscoe, you're doing well. You look like they buried you alive, girl, Roscoe says. Everyone get in. There's reports of a flying tree and I want to get home. Melody and Elton spend a drive back, discussing boring logistical issues like getting the Philodox a new laptop and updating her state ID. You'd hope to see one in old palace mansions, but Roscoe drops you outside your gambrel. Oh, and this place you meant? Melody asks Elton when she sees it. Isn't this the place where Kate and Knife Eyes... Don't tell her, Elton whispers as you jump out of the van. Then he leans forward to talk to Roscoe. Morgan, Melody says, leaning out the van. Thank you. I need to start rebuilding the barrows, but you and I need to talk more. Come and see me when you can. You nod, and then watch as the van reverses and trundles back up the dirt road, leaving you alone. That's one member of the old pack rescued. Podge the Bone Gnawer and Nin the Child of Gaia are still out there somewhere, but they can wait until tomorrow. You stumble inside around 3 a.m., so tired that your bones ache and barely manage to pull off your boots before you topple into bed. You don't dream at all. And on that victory, almost flawless victory, we're going to end a little early tonight. My friends, it has been highly enjoyable to play a little bit more of Werewolf the Apocalypse and Book of the Hungry Names. I highly enjoyed you joining me on this lovely little experience. Thanks very much for your patience with a later start, the clogged up nose, and the earlier finish. But I'd rather have less time than no time, so thank you very much for spending your time with me. Now, I will be back on Sunday evening with Shadowrun or Baldur's Gate. I'm not entirely sure which. It's one or both of them. It's supposed to be Shadowrun, but we missed Baldur's Gate last week, and do we want to keep going with Baldur's Gate? Because I do. It's higher on my priority list, but we'll see. See what I feel like on the day. And after that, we'll be back next Wednesday with more Kingdom Hearts. Hopefully with our bonus Sam, our excellent special guest that we love very much. I have been playing and grinding a lot of Kingdom Hearts, and I have some surprises for you this time next week. Okay, please remember to tell the people you love them very much. It's an important line to me. And remember to give that love freely, because it's a resource that doesn't run out if you manage it right. So, good night everyone. I love you very much. Please, tell the people you love them too. I'll see you again soon.